welcome to another edition of Case Clthd. I'm Alex Brown.
I'm Caitrin Hodson, and we today are going to be talking about kind of a topic that lines up with Halloween and spooky season.
Yeah, exactly. We thought this would be the perfect topic to get into. We're talking about the masks we wear. Now, I'm not talking about Halloween masks necessarily,
but like the masks that we all wear in society, especially, of course, us as women, and just where those masks come from, I guess. Sometimes it's in a professional setting, and then sometimes it's just like societal pressure. So
I know. Yeah. Let's dive into that, because I think like this is a really interesting topic. Kind of the outline we are thinking of is like you present yourself different ways depending on the situation you're in, and sometimes you even feel obligated to be a completely different version of yourself that isn't your true self because you feel that you have to. I know for you and I, working in media for as long as we did and have, like, you have your public mask which can be like very family friendly, very like digestible, and then your true self, which could be, you know, we're human, we make errors, we swear, we you know, don't have perfect skin.
Working in the news, definitely you have that mask. And it was funny because when I first started working in television, who I am as a person is quite different from my news personality. Similar in some ways, but I remember being in line at a movie, and actually I was with you and our producer Emily. We were going to see Elvis. I was just, you know, like talking off the cuff, and there was all these people in line around us, and I had this moment of like, oh, I should probably not be swearing as much as I am right now because there's viewers around. Not that I was just dropping, like, you know, but I was just off the cuff, and that was my moment of like, oh, now I have to be cognizant of this sort of mask. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it is weird because especially with us, like, we have, you know, a social media presence because we were on a show together. And so I feel like there's this like weird dichotomy because people like think they have like a parasocial relationship with you, and they think that they know you and they're friends. And like a lot of our followers, like, they've been following for years, so we like do engage with them regularly, and there is like an amount of comfortability, but it's also like I've never met them in person. So then when you get approached, like that's happened to me, like I've gotten approached by followers who have followed me for years, and I wouldn't recognize them, but once they introduce themselves, I'm like, oh, okay, hi. But it's still like I don't know that anyone knows the true selves because we have to be like professional, you know? It is kind of a mask.
Also, something I think is interesting, besides those are kind of masks that everyone wears in some capacity in their life, because of course, if you work in a professional setting. But the masks that I think like women have been conditioned to wear over many years, and I think a lot of times that mask is like a people-pleasing mask or a caregiving mask.
Or like laughing at like a joke that you don't find funny or that could be like offensive, but you also like don't know, like if it's a man, like you don't know this person, so you're just trying to be like like,
especially if you're by yourself. With a bunch of men. I was actually at a basketball game, and there was these guys in the crowd that were chirping the ref, who was a woman. And she could take it. She was tough. And anyhow, I was sitting there and I didn't say anything, but I was alone with all these men. And afterwards I was like kind of mad at myself, but at the same time I felt outnumbered, and I'm a person who speaks up.
And you have to worry about your safety too, like as a woman when you're by yourself in that situation. But no, and I also want to speak to like when you are a neurodivergent person, like I am, I have ADHD. I didn't know how much I masked to be neurotypical until I started dating my boyfriend and we moved in together, and there's like an element of like, this is my safe space, so I let the mask down, and I didn't realize how much I was masking my ADHD until someone lives with you full time and they start pointing stuff out, like, oh, this, that, the other thing, like how I'm very clumsy. I'm very forgetful. I'm dropping things. I don't know where things are. Like, but when I'm masking, I kind of try to have it all together.
Right.
But when I'm in the safety of my own home and the comfortability, it's like I can actually be myself. But I think there's definitely, for neurodivergent folks out there, there's an element of like trying to put on this front of like my brain works normal. Don't like, even look over here.
How everyone expects you to behave.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of like...
Which is probably really tiring.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. And like now I've like tried to bring down the mask a bit and incorporate things that work for my ADHD, like into my work life, into my personal life. So it's like, this is like, I have fidgets on my desk at work. Because when I'm working and writing, I like to fidget with something. And yes, it looks like I have toys on my desk, but actually more and more people in my newsroom have fidgets on their desk now. Because it's like, there is a bit of a stigma with like things.
I think though, when talking about the neurodivergence thing is, as a society, there's a lot more conversation now happening about neurodivergence, which I think is good. But as your friend or as a friend of anyone or a partner of anyone who is neurodivergent, I would like to know those things, because I think that oftentimes, and everyone with ADHD or who's neurodivergent is different, but those can be misinterpreted by a neurotypical person as like traits that mean this person doesn't care about you or your time.
Actually, let's get into this conversation before we introduce our guest, because sidebar, we have girls' nights pretty regularly with our friend Steph, who was on CTV with us, and our producer for this show, Emily, and the four of us will get together. We worked so many years together, and so when we're sitting and having a girls' night and we're just talking for like 3-4 hours, like I find that my attention, it's not that everything isn't compelling, it's just my brain is going a million miles an hour. So the one time we had a girls' night at Emily's, I actually brought a fidget with me, and I was able to like pay attention so much better because my hands were just going.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and so I had a fidget cube with me, but I find that when I don't remember to do that, I end up like on my phone, or like, it's not because I'm not interested, it's just like a fidgeting thing. Like I'm listening. But it is really hard. And also fidgeting is all the snacks we always have. I end up just snacking as a fidget.
The snacks are the main reason I attend.
Yeah, exactly. We always have to have
snacks
full
first,
spread.
Friendship second.
Yeah. Okay.
Wine third. Actually, no, what am I talking about?
Wine first. Very important. We can't have girls' night without wine. Let's get in. We have another awesome guest.
We do. And I'm so excited because I feel like this is a conversation too. We're talking about the masks we wear almost in a negative way, but this is kind of, well, we'll let the guests speak for themselves, but in a sort of positive and fun way too, you can wear masks.
Exactly right. So I'm going to talk about someone named Jory McKay. And this person, you may not have heard that name, but you definitely know their drag queen persona, Sad Sally. Now, Sad Sally was my drag mentor for So You Think You Can Drag, which I performed. I don't even remember what month that was. It was a while ago.
It was like March of last year, around there. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I spent a lot of time with Jory getting my makeup done, doing getting all ready, doing the training, and then obviously hosting the night. And it was like such a fascinating conversation because you don't often get a time to sit down with a kind of bigger drag queen performer that lots of people know and just quiz them. When did you get into this? How long does it take to do your makeup? What do you like? What do you don't like? And so we really got into that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we introduce him. So Jory McKay, raised in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, and graduated from the U of S with a Bachelor of Arts and Science with a major in anthropology and minor in history. During his time on campus, he became a very active member of the Saskatoon 2S LGBTQ+ community, planning a lot of events and discovering the art of drag, helping reignite his love for the arts. Now he works at Persephone Theater, which we both love, and I am so happy to welcome to the Case Clthd podcast, Jory McKay.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited you're here.
Yes.
Alex, you lead with the first question because you obviously have a little bit of experience in the drag community.
Yeah, I guess let's start, Jory, with growing up in Swift Current. What was that like for you, and did you have an interest in performing from a young age?
Yeah, so Current is a very, very interesting place to have been a queer person. Like there was not a lot of queer people growing up. I didn't have a lot of representation for folks that were older than me and queer. It was more folks my age that would come out to me and feel comfortable. So there wasn't a lot of queerness. And I was involved in theater, just not drag. At a young age, I was acting in drama productions when I was in high school. That was my favorite thing. I would do theater in church. Like I love acting. So that was my outlet all the time. So growing up as a current, I didn't have a lot of queer experience, a lot of art stuff to do, but I did get to see drag for the first time when I was like 15, and that was mind-blowing to me.
Was it like a life-changing experience, like seeing someone in the full drag getup?
Yeah, I saw Feather Talia, a drag queen from Regina who now lives in Winnipeg. Like
gosh, I know her.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
she is a really, really good friend of mine. But she was actually the first drag performer I ever saw.
Wow.
And I was just mind blown because I was like, this woman is so beautiful. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Did you see her in Swift Current?
Yeah, she came for our local Pride, like for our Pride drag show at the Lyric Theater there. And it was just this mind-blowing experience where I was like, I could do theater like that. Because when I was growing up in theater, I wasn't a like traditionally conventionally attractive person, so I didn't get cast in a lot of the leading roles. I would kind of get the side characters or the funny character, and then with drag I saw it and I was like, wait, I could be the main character.
I could be a leading woman.
And then when I was in university, I did that. It was my like intro to it all.
Isn't it crazy how one thing like that can sort of change the whole trajectory of what you want to do with your life?
Totally.
Like one moment.
And how impressionable that moment can be.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel like a moment of like representation or a moment of like you were being seen or connection when you saw Feather perform?
Yeah, Feather, I was too scared to ask Feather and Feather's drag family to put me in drag for the first time. But they did put my best friend Marsha in drag. And like she's still drag performer to this day. And it was this moment of being like, I wish I would have asked, because it was a very instant, like, this is what I want to do. I feel represented. I feel so seen.
Yeah.
Just seeing those performers in my small town where there wasn't any queer representation of anyone that was an adult, really. I didn't know anyone that was queer that was an adult. Our GSA that I was a part of, no one that was leading it was openly queer. That was an adult. So I did not get to meet a queer adult until I met those drag performers for the first time, really. Or anyone who was openly talking about it to me.
And what year would have that been?
2015, I think.
Okay.
So a while ago now.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years.
When was the first time then that you did drag? And were you terrified or were you good?
So there's a couple of first times. The first time I ever put on drag makeup, I just put on eyeshadow and like Vaseline with eyeshadow in it. That was my first like introduction to drag, and that was like 2016, I want to say.
Was that at your own home, like in the safe, or did someone do your makeup?
It was like a drag workshop with not Feather that year, but a couple of other performers that had come in, and they were doing a workshop, and I was too scared to ask them to do it for me, so I did my own at the workshop, paying attention to what they did it terribly, but it was my technical first time. And then my actual, like, real first time having a drag persona and knowing who I was getting in drag for the first time was 2019. My friend Stony Mac, who was on Call Me Mother, put me in drag for the first time. And I looked terrible. Those photos are hidden from the internet. I don't archive anything, but I do archive that photo.
Okay.
Did you do like the Google search to like make sure it's not there? You're like,
oh yeah, I know Stony has it saved on his phone. He still shows it to me sometimes to laugh, because he's a drag king, so he tried to put me like in a combination of the both.
Oh, like a non-binary queen.
Yeah, and we both know that it was not the best,
not the right fit.
No, and the eyebrows were not staying down. It was it was really truly a disaster. Not Stony's fault. It was just such a mess that night, but it was so much fun. Like that was the first time I performed, and I went out and did like this weird Country Roads remix. Like Country
God, I
Roads,
love
like
it.
Old Town Road into Country Roads.
Interesting.
And it was
Because that is not who Sally, your current performer,
No.
is. That is not her.
No, my character has changed so much.
Yeah.
It used to be this character who was campy, comedic, and I used to wear these giant hip pads, like giant breastplate, because I was bigger at that point, so it was a lot different body shape.
Mhm.
But like when I changed the way that my body looked, all of a sudden my drag aesthetic and everything changed too, and now I do more sexual numbers, more very much 19 plus numbers,
Yeah.
which is a big change from what
Big
it used to
change.
be.
Yeah. And there's a degree of like comfortability and confidence that you have to come into yourself, I would imagine, to be able to perform those types of numbers where your body is on full display and you're being a bit more sensual, right?
Yeah, no, I drag, it's weird because drag is the reason that out of drag I'm now confident.
Interesting.
Because it took me a while to kind of figure out who I was out of drag. I'm saying like lots of queer people, they have their queer adolescence when they like hit like their mid-20s, where all of a sudden they get to explore when they're like my straight counterparts would have had fun in high school doing things. I didn't get to do that because I was the only queer person, and
Yeah.
like, where am I gonna date? What am I gonna do? Like in a small town that just doesn't exist. Or at my age it didn't. Now it does for kids, which I'm very thankful for. But like, and now I'm kind of having that queer adolescence where I'm finding myself and discovering my aesthetic and what I want to do. And my Salliness has kind of spread out into Jory and vice versa, where I've become confident both in and out of drag. And a lot of it has to do with that mask and drag and figuring out who I was, which took a long time.
So let's talk about like the mask timeline here, because we are talking about the masks we wear. So did you feel growing up in Swift Current, like a young queer boy, not a lot of representation or like examples, were you masking, do you feel, growing up?
Yeah, it's funny. I talk to my drag sister Marcia about this all the time because we grew up together. And when I was growing up in middle school, I was a bit of a bully to other people who were like me, other queer folks, specifically Marcia, who is my best friend now. And at that point, we were still friends, but I would like make offhanded comments or other things because it was a way of like me deflecting off of who I was and who I was inside. I very quickly moved out of that by like the beginning of high school, but I there was definitely that mask for like a while there of being like oh, my family won't accept me, all these things. And now as I've grown up and had a wonderful experience coming out with my family and all of it, it's changed, but it was like I was masking very, very, very hard for a while.
Yeah.
And then I just one day took it off. I didn't like make an announcement about it. I just was like, all of a sudden, I'm gay and nobody needs to like know. I don't need to make that public post or tell it to anybody. It's just if anyone asked, all of a sudden I was like, oh, the mask is not there anymore. And it was so liberating to just have it gone. And it kind of be, even though I grew up in a small town where there was lots of comments and stuff, I was very lucky that none of them were directed at me, which I'm still very blessed for. But it was very different growing up and figuring out that the mask was okay to actually take off.
Totally.
Are you still connected with anyone in Swift Current, or do you kind of know what the community is like now for queer kids in Swift Current?
Yeah, I go down there for Pride every year. I've been their Pride drag queen for the last like 4 years, I would say, since like the beginning of COVID. We went down there for some tours and stuff. And it's unfortunately not great for queer kids because I did keep a connection for a bit out of high school, but now I've been out of high school for 7 years. So I don't know anyone personally that's in that school anymore. I'm at an age where I don't really associate with anyone that would be that age, thank God. But there is like a lot of controversy happening with queer kids in that space. Like I started their GSA, and I know with all the changes to policy now, there's like actual threats to the kids because parents have found out and made it unsafe for the kids. And also other kids have made like very public threats towards the GSA, posted super straight things, like a whole bunch of stuff all over the school. Like there was a case, I think, with posters that were put up that were anti-gay in the school. Not by the school or the admin. The school and admin are great, but by students and like parents making the complaints. It's become a scary place for queer kids again, which makes me super sad because when I was there, we started the GSA and it became a place where kids that were queer were not celebrated, but we were safe. And if like one of the football dudes or someone who was playing sports were to make fun of us, all of the girls would defend us and be like, no, we're all done talking to you. You can't go on dates with us. You can't do anything. And all of a sudden it's kind of changed very radically within the last 7 years, negatively, unfortunately.
And for people listening or watching, GSA stands for
the Gay Straight Alliance.
Right. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So I guess like first of all, crushing, because you know that more queer youth or whoever is having to mask in that space if they are a little different than the mainstream queer not. Like it's clearly not a space right now where people can be themselves. Which no one wants that. But I want to move into Sad Sally now. We kind of talked a little bit about your childhood, but let's move into how, like, when did Sad Sally have her debut?
Yeah, so it was 2019. When I was running the Pride Center at the university, and I ran a couple of shows, and I knew the performers here very, very well, and they kept joking at me, being like, you're going to do drag one day, you're going to do drag one day, and they all knew that I listened to a lot. Billie Eilish's new album had just come out at that point, and I listened to it all day, every single day, like, it's still the most played thing on my Apple Music. And my friend Shanali, who or Tomid, kept making these comments saying, you're just a sad Sally, like, and like coined the term for me of being my drag name of Sad Sally because depression and sad, and being
like
and
a Debbie
sad.
Downer but a Sad Sally.
Yeah, no, a more fun upbeat term instead of Debbie Downer was the Sad Sally alternative, where like I just listen to a lot of sad music, and they were like, we know you're just gonna do sad music.
As someone who also listens to a lot of sad music, I just want to put it out there that you can be a very positive person and like
me too.
Your feelings. I love sad music,
but love emotional music.
It's healing.
Yeah.
It's so healing.
Agreed.
And then with the drag, I started at that show with Stony Mac, and it was this like, I was inviting all my friends, but come see my first performance. And first performance was bad, but it was that like, it was really liberating to just like get to do it. And everyone kept telling me, you need to do it, you need to do it. And I wanted to do it. And when I did it, it was everything I could have dreamed of. And I was like, I need to do this all the time.
Were you nervous before your first performance?
No.
No?
Surprisingly, I wasn't. And I was the most busted looking drag queen. It was so bad at the beginning, but I was, every single time I go out, I was like, I might look terrible, but I would look in the mirror really delusionally and just be like, I'm the most beautiful person.
Yeah, like, I'm not. Fake it until you make it, baby.
I was like, oh, I'm so hot, as like my contour is unblended and it's, my eyebrows are completely lifted and they're not the same shape. And I was looking in the mirror and I was like, this is the most beautiful person to ever walk this earth.
And that's like actually like a really nice tip too, is just like, if you believe it inside, like
100%.
you will exude that confidence.
I read this interview once with Lady Gaga. I think it was for, I don't know, Vogue or something, Vanity Fair. And she was saying how she has like Lady Gaga and she has Stephanie Germanotta, sorry.
Yeah.
And how some mornings when she wakes up, she's like, I don't feel like Lady Gaga, I just feel like Stephanie. And she has to look at herself in the mirror and say like, you are a fucking rock star, you know?
Well, and that's what like,
and like believe it and like remind herself like, you are Lady Gaga. She's in there. You just gotta find her.
And do you ever have that moment with Sally, like where like, do you wake up and you have, you know, a drag performance, you have a show, like you have a high demanding schedule with the Sally performances? Do you ever wake up and you're like, I don't feel like Sally today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are absolutely days where I wake up and I'm just like, oh, this is my 6th day of drag in a row. I don't want to put on the makeup.
Yeah.
But then when I put it on, I immediately feel it.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of days where I wake up and I'm like, I just want to be Jory today.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Sally again. But I get over it pretty quickly when the makeup gets on. The makeup and the outfits are just like the immediate transformation. Those keep going.
And when you love what you do, I feel like we could relate to that sometimes in the news. It's like, you know, 4:30 in the morning.
I don't want to put foundation on.
God, I don't want to be on television right now and I don't want to put makeup on and whatever. But as soon as you're on, because you love what you're on, you're on and it's like good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right? I'm always just preemptively thinking of I don't want to take this off later.
Yeah.
It does seem like, okay, so a question, side note.
Yeah.
How long does it take to take off all the drag makeup?
Days.
Days.
And
You're still finding glitter.
I was in drag last night. I was hosting karaoke, and I was like, oh, there's glue in my sideburn. In this interview, I was like, oh, there's a little bit of eyeliner left. Like, it comes off fast. Like, the drag body, all that can come off. I can get it off in, like, 10 minutes maximum. But there are days where the makeup has just lasted for the next week.
Have you ever done it on purpose? Like, I watched one time this woman, I won't name her, she was a TV announcer, and she got her makeup done for something. It was very intricate eye makeup. And she was like, I am not washing this off, and I'm going to leave this on for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
4 days?
Yes. She did it on social media, and she would sleep like this. I'm not kidding. Like, as though she was
A vampire
dead.
sleep.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I've done it a couple of times.
And she left it on. Yeah. And it actually lasted pretty well.
How does it not crack?
I don't know.
You have to, before you go to bed, you spray it with a whole bunch of setting spray. You put the powder on and wipe it off and spray it again. And then you just lay on your back.
In your coffin.
And you have to take your lashes off, because if you don't take your lashes off, it'll all come off in the night. And you just lay there, like, surrounded by pillows so you can't move. I don't do it very often because it's terrible for your skin. But I do it when I have, like, a show at night and then a show the next morning.
Like when they're close together.
Yeah, like there was one time that I was performing in Regina, like on a Saturday night, and then a Friday night, and then I had to be back here for a show at like 10:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I got home from the bar at 2 a.m., went to bed, woke up at 6:30, drove back here, did the show, and then I had another show that night, and I kept the makeup on for, I think it was like 36 hours.
And just to clarify, for anyone who doesn't know about drag makeup, like, how long is your Sad Sally makeup routine? Does it take? Hair.
It depends on the day, because I have like a couple of like signature makeups that I do. If I do the one where I keep my natural eyebrows, I can do it in 45 minutes. That's
impressive.
I've done it so many times that it's almost like a stamp that I put on. But if I really love myself that day, I'll give myself 3 hours.
3 hours.
And
so
do you enjoy
it's no wonder that you try to keep it.
Do you enjoy the process of doing it? Like, is that part of the fun?
Oh, that to me is the fun.
Right.
Getting in the drag. I'm such a makeup, like, I love makeup so much. I don't wear it day to day because I don't want to ruin that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love putting on the makeup. It is my favorite part of the experience. I love the just complete transformation.
Yeah. So talk to me about the relationship then between Sally and Jory. Like, do you have friends out there that just know Sally or just know Jory? Like, how do you navigate that space with the two personas? Because they're very different people.
There are people who have never, who I hang out with regularly at the bar, who have never seen me as Jory. Like, to this day, there are still people who come to my shows and will hang out with them at a show or talk to them. And obviously they follow my Instagram, so they've like seen Jory through the Instagram. But there are so many people who have never once seen me out of drag. And there are people in my life, thankfully, that know me as Jory that have never seen me as Sally. And those people I'm always almost more thankful for. Because Sally gets a lot of the attention sometimes. But I find that the two are very, very connected. Like, it's gotten to a point where my friends will just call me Sally. Sometimes it's like Sally takes over.
Do you like that? Do you answer to that?
Yeah, I answer to it. Because the way I kind of view it is that Sally is like an art, like, so Chapel Roan talked about it in a way that I really related to, of like, Sally is an art project for me. Mm-hmm. She is a creative outlet. She is a lot. She helped me get through a lot and figure out a lot of stuff in my life. So while I am Jory when I'm not wearing the makeup, I am also still Sally. She's like a part of me no matter what. And we're very intertwined. There's no like escaping. It used to be where Sally was a totally different character than Jory, but now they've become kind of melded into one, and it kind of made me question my like gender to figure that out. And I now identifying as like gender fluid, it's like any pronoun is okay. The names, like, it's come to a point where I enjoy all of the energy and all of it, so they're very intertwined now.
Okay, I love that.
Could totally propel us into another episode in the future on identity, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. You could be a recurring guest here.
We don't have time to get into that, but my brain is spinning on that. We also, want to ask you, because it's Halloween, and just generally speaking for our own selfish reasons, about your makeup tips So how obviously you're wearing this makeup through, you're moving around.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're sleeping. So what are your top tips for making makeup last?
I have learned, well, the things that I do for me will not probably work for the average everyday person, is I will put on a cream foundation and then put a concealer mixed into it. So like I do both of them, because if you do both, it makes it look more skin-like, and it also makes it fuller coverage, and it does not budge.
Okay, those are all amazing.
Yeah.
Skin length, floor
Do
coverage.
you have
and
to
doesn't
set
budge.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Pressed or loose?
I use pressed for this area of my face.
Yeah.
So like the lighter parts, anything that's lighter, I always say a pressed powder. If it's your skin tone, I always do loose powder because it just makes it easier. If you really want your makeup to last, put this is something I've done is like at the end of my makeup when I need it to be on for a long time and I've done my eyeshadow, I will put loose powder over top of the eyeshadow.
Okay.
And let it sit for like a couple of minutes, wipe it off, and then re-intensify the color, and it will not budge.
Like kind of when you say wipe it off, do you mean like kind of
brush
brush it
it
off
off?
with a brush?
Yeah, because like
as if you're baking.
Yeah, it's like you're baking your eyeshadow and everything in. The number one way to keep makeup on is to underpaint, like the drag way of putting your highlight, your contour, everything in cream products, and then putting the powder after you've already set it.
Okay.
So like when I set it with the loose powder, I'll wipe that off with a big fluffy brush, and then I'll put the contour on like a powder one. And that intensifies it, but it also just makes it last forever.
Okay.
What is your go-to setting spray?
I use the NYX, the hydrating one.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I have to matte.
That's affordable.
Yeah, I use
NYX
NYX's matte, but you like hydrating. You don't find it becomes like dewy.
I like a dewier look with my makeup because
Okay.
I will do everything is completely matte.
Yeah.
And then I will do a dewy setting spray to like make it look more like in the middle between matte and dewy. Because everything's matte before you put the dewy spray on, it kind of makes it look more
comes
velvety.
to life. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you look more alive and not like a doll.
Yeah, I
gives
completely
you a
understand
glow.
that. Yeah. Like when you're doing a solo show, like, because when I did So You Think You Can Drag, it was a bunch of performers and everyone does one number. When it's just you, how long can you perform for? Is it like a set?
For these ones, I do still do a big cast.
Yeah.
But if I am doing a solo show, there, like when I go to like prides and stuff, I can do I do this thing called drag roulette, where I'll let the audience choose songs, and I'm not allowed to know them, and the DJ just like skips through them. Like every like minute, the DJ hits the next song, so I'll like perform for 25 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like these random songs to the audience. So much fun. But I do that, and then I will also do a lot of stand up to like fill time. So I can fill like 45 minutes on my own to an hour if needed.
Congratulations. That's pretty
That
impressive.
takes a lot of stamina, I feel.
Yeah.
Physical and mental stamina.
Yeah. Before we let you go, any big performances for Sally coming up the week of Halloween or November that we should have on our calendars?
Yeah, so the 31st, I have a show called Bloodbath happening at Coors Event Center. It'll feature me and a couple of other local performers. And then on November 16th, I have a Sabrina Carpenter tribute night, which I recreated the album cover for, and it's at Coors as well. We did Chapel Roan a week and a half ago and fully sold out Coors. So it'll be a pretty big deal again, I'm hoping, because Sabrina Carpenter is topping those charts.
Oh my gosh.
Are you pulling glue out right now?
Yeah, I am. I was like, wait, no, please let me hasn't been there the whole interview.
Keeping it real here on Case
Exactly.
Clthd.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. This was like a really, really refreshing, wonderful conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk not in makeup for once.
Right? Yeah. This is Jory, everyone.
And I think it's probably safe to say that we might be inviting you to come back on the podcast at some point.
Jeez, I love talking.
I'm a yapper.
Yeah,
that's why we got along.
Yeah, I love to yap.
Yeah. Oh my
Well, you're in good company then.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the episode, but before we go, Caitrin and I like to do this thing where we still don't have a name for this segment.
Things we're obsessed with is what it's called.
Obsession Corner. Okay, I'm gonna go first
Yeah.
because you went first last time. Right now, so my in-laws were just here and they came in from Ontario and they helped us. So if you don't know, my partner Brad and I bought a new home back in the summer, and it was basically done. The home is from the 70s, but the previous owners had like completely updated it. You've been there, like it doesn't feel like it's from the 70s. It's very, very nice. However, we of course want to put our own personal touch on it, but we really didn't know where to start. And so my in-laws taught us how to DIY, which sounds a little silly, but was really, really helpful. So I learned how to prepare a room for painting. I learned how to patch holes, sand them, tape off the room, do the priming, cutting in on the edges, and then like how to actually like paint a room so it's not patchy and it looks good. And now I feel really confident to be able to do that myself after doing it with my mother-in-law.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was like, I'm not a person, like I'm crafty. We know we've talked about crafts, but I'm definitely not like a home reno crafty kind of person. Like I do not want to touch drywall, light fixtures, any of that. And so my current obsession is now like we really got some education from my in-laws and we're able to like kind of put that into practice. Like Brad learned how to change out light fixtures. So we don't have to hire someone. He learned about like how to install new outlets and run wires. And so yeah, my current obsession is now like going through my Instagram folder and being like, we could actually do that.
I feel like anyone who delves into DIY becomes addicted to it to some extent.
Totally,
or like
yeah.
home reno space, and then their entire like Pinterest and Instagram is like home reno stuff.
Well, and you know the blue feature wall in our living room? It's like the statement wall.
Yeah.
So that was the previous owner's color choice. We're thinking of now doing it like a deep green.
Oh, okay. I do like the blue, but green's my favorite color.
Mine too.
So
we'll see. I think I can do it because it's just one wall.
Right.
So it's really not like a full space.
Yeah.
I think we could do it in a weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah. What's your obsession?
I mean, my number one obsession right now is my nephew, Ronan.
Totally. You are so obsessed.
If you follow my personal Instagram account, you see photos of him probably on the daily. And I don't care. I am not apologizing for that because he's adorable. Besides him and my other two nephews, who are also my obsession, the three of them all the time, I'm obsessed with being a boy auntie.
Yeah.
Also, and I feel like coming from a family of mostly women, like it's my two sisters and I and my brother, everyone's having boys.
Your brother's having a moment right now.
Yeah.
Of like, look at all these boys.
And my dad, you know.
Yeah.
So now it's like the three nephews, and I kind of love it because I feel like we're raising up these, you know, really good men into the world.
Feminist men? Gentlemen?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Just good men. So every year on my Instagram, I make a point of posting about my birthday, and I make a point of saying my age because I feel like there's this stigma that is disappearing, but I grew up with this sort of stigma around age, which is so interesting because everyone's going to get old. Like it's not something anyone avoids. So every young woman is going to be, hopefully, if you're lucky, an old woman. So every year I do this, I say like that I turned 37. This year I'll say that I turned 38. And the older I get, the more I sort of become who I am, or I get more comfortable being who I am. And I just have been sort of on social media seeing lots of different videos of these different women. The ones that come to mind are Cher. Usually often ask myself in life, what would Cher do? It's like my life motto. Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda, people like Tina Turner and Oprah, these women who are still so relevant, and all of them are, you know, in their 70s and 80s, and women who I think are like defying what it means to be an older woman. And just like when I look at Dolly Parton, for example, she has always been herself. She's always done her hair the way she wants, her makeup the way she wants, dresses the way she wants. She's incredibly intelligent as well. And people used to make fun of her outfits a lot. And I think she kind of defies that. As she gets older, she continues to be herself. Like she hasn't changed to that. And seeing all these women do this, seeing Cher at the Victoria's Secret show at 78, performing, seeing Jane Fonda talking about, you know, women's rights and the environment, and just watching all these women speak their truth, be themselves, unapologetically, has just kind of made me think about how I think that being yourself and being authentically who you are actually like makes you younger longer, if that makes sense. Like
Totally.
it makes you, and I think it has an impact on, just like it makes you maybe even live longer. I don't know. There's no science to back this up, but I just think it's interesting. Like what all these women have in common is that they've always been themselves and spoken their truth, even when it was really hard. Like, you know, back in there's videos of Cher in the 70s saying things that would be controversial to some people now.
Yeah, totally. And even Pam Anderson, like, she was known for her smoky eye and being, you know, this sex symbol. And now she's going au naturel on red carpets, aging naturally. And I think that is just, it's so inspiring to see. And I don't want to, like, call it brave, because I hate when people use that. It's like, she's her natural self, you know, as she should be. And she's, you know, kind of setting an example. My hope is that we can see more older women aging naturally on the news, because we often see a lot of older white men going all the way up into their 90s, but we don't see a lot of naturally aging women with white hair or with lines without getting work done. So my hope is that the more mainstream that natural aging for women becomes, I hope that transfers into news media as well.
Totally. And Pam Anderson was on the cover of UK Glamour Woman of the Year, which again, it's inspiring to see with no makeup on at her age. And the more that women are represented in those spaces, the more they'll continue to be represented, and the better women will feel about themselves overall. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Before we go, Clothes Collective is going to be having some closet sales over on our Instagram page. So if you're looking for some secondhand finds that are in really good condition, we check everything over, no holes, no stains, and really top quality brands as well. Those are going to be dropping November, December. We'll be promoting them over on the Clothes Collective Instagram. And so you just watch the stories and then reply to the pieces that you want. Very, very easy, and a great way to keep really good quality clothes out of the landfill.
Totally. Very good for the environment to be buying secondhand.
Exactly. And the thing I love about this community is often, like, say Heather Kernahan will donate something that then I will wear, and then I'll donate it, and someone else in the community. So it's like kind of the sisterhood of the traveling whatever.
This was Dina's, actually.
Was it really?
Yeah, I bought it at the last pop-up.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, the jacket I wore today was also Dina's.
So perfect. And then we're also going to be doing a new clothing drop over on the Clothes Collective in December, I believe. So keep your eyes peeled for those brand new pieces. We'll have all the information over on our Instagram.
And we of course want to give a huge shout out to Better Brother Brewing for having us and allowing us to host this in their beautiful space.
Yeah, come on down, Second and Queen. It's a wonderful tap room, and even if you don't drink, they've got root beer, they've got snacks, they got food. And thank you, Jeff and Jocelyn, so much for having us here. But it's such a beautiful space, so definitely come check it out. They have live music and stuff too, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, and the acoustics in here would be good, I can tell, as a musician.
Okay, Caitrin will be performing next.
Well, and shout out to Junior Cafe. This is my favorite coffee place. They're in Saskatchewan. Their coffee's amazing. They're local. Check them out. And they kept us caffeinated.
Very needed.
Morning.
Very needed. Yes. Thank you all so much for being here.
We'll see you next time.